Hey, my name's Jon Parris. I'm a musician and songwriter from Valdosta, Georgia. Uh, my band is named Jon Parris and Magnetic South. We've been a band for about 10 years, and I've performed music for probably 35 or 40 years. Technology has really come a long way in the years that I've been playing and recording music. When I first started out, songwriting, like I talked about earlier, I would record things onto just a regular cassette player, and then eventually I got a cassette Porta Studio that had multiple tracks to do acoustic demos, and sometimes I would add other parts on top of it. The first time I went into a professional or high quality studio was in 1991 or so, and that was a fully analog studio where we recorded to tape, and that was a really exciting experience, and it sounded really good. And but digital came along, and at first the digital quality was not that great, and you could certainly hear that it didn't have the sort of liveliness and full tonality that analog recording did. But in the last 10 years, digital quality has just gone through the roof, and it's really exciting. And so now the last record that we did, even though we developed the arrangements and performances, in a much more organic and natural way, we still used digital recording and computer-based DAWs, which is an acronym for Digital Audio Workstation. So we would record into that, and then we'd be able to mix and master the project all inside the computer, which they call in the box. And so over the years, the last decade or so, I've used primarily the DAW called Cubase, and it's a really professional, full functioning type of DAW program. I've also been playing with a new one recently called Reaper, that is a pretty simple program to use, and it's not quite as big of a resource hog. It doesn't use as much of your RAM on your computer as Cubase does. So we'll be trying that out. And as I mentioned earlier, we use a lot of digital drum programming because we don't have a drummer in the band right now. So we're actually composing using digital MIDI to build drum tracks, and then laying the songs out and rearranging them and selecting tempos and arrangement ideas through that. So technology is really helpful, and my own philosophy is to start out with good gear, the guitars and amps and keyboards, and do your best vocals and all that, and be sure that's dialed in, and then having really good outboard equipment, microphones and mic pre's and compressors and things like that to get a really great sound going into the computer. And then once you're in the computer, once it's called in the box, you can really use some amazing in-house effects that these programs come with to further manipulate the sound, and then to also get the balance or the mix of the different tracks really dialed in. So it's a lot of fun, and I feel like it's really technology, rather than being something that has been an adjustment or difficult. It's actually been very freeing, and makes building songs, and makes the whole creative process a lot more interesting, and keeps me growing as an artist. So that's a lot of fun. I've been writing songs since I was a teenager and first learning how to play the guitar. I was really intrigued at that as a sort of a creative or expressive process for myself. And once I got into bands and was writing new material, it just basically we evolved from arrangements from the floor, with the band playing together, and just kind of writing and composing and arranging the songs that way, like a typical rock and roll band would do. In recent years, though, I've been using the computer a lot more, and we've actually been building and composing via building rhythm tracks through MIDI programs, MIDI drum programs, and then putting the component parts of the chords and the chordal structure on top of those computer drums. And it's been a lot of fun. It's really re-energized our creative process, and we essentially are doing pre-production when we're making demos instead of just playing as a band and then recording the band performance. We're actually listening back to the demos and adjusting the framework of the song, and the arrangements as we go. And so the computer has been a real boon to our creative process, and we've really enjoyed that. And it's been fun too to record guitars directly and try to make the guitars sound like a guitar through an amp, except where you're playing straight into the computer. So it's been really interesting, and I think that our new material is coming together really well. We've been working on about 14 or 15 new songs that are going to be demoed and essentially produced in that manner. Our last release was Motel Trance, and that was done via the old way, whereas I just presented a song on acoustic guitar to the band, and they worked up an arrangement. So this is a completely different workflow for us, and it's been a lot of fun. A lot of the things that influenced me over the years were not entirely musical. When I was a young boy, my parents exposed me to architecture and art and books and literature and music. And so I was really intrigued by creative work and ideas and how to bring something out of nothing, and how it could be so beautiful or challenging. And I think the earliest influence I had was probably listening to the Beatles and Ray Charles records when I was a really little boy, and also Simon and Garfunkel. My parents had all those different records, and it was really fun to listen to those bands and to be inspired by them and to hear the songcraft and the passion in their performances. So that was a lot of fun. When I got older, I really kind of discovered, I was always really into music and listened to a lot of different things, via the radio, but being from a small town in South Georgia, there weren't a lot of live performances to expose me to things. So I moved up to the Atlanta and Athens area right after college, and saw just tons of really exciting performers, and I had a chance to actually meet and interact with some of the musicians that were pretty well known from the Athens scene. And a lot of them were really inspiring for me in terms of developing my own creative process and work, and seeing that just regular people from the South can be creative and do great things with music and everything. So that's been a lot of fun. And then after I had moved back down to Valdosta, there were a group of musicians called the Unknowns, and they actually had the studio that we did some of my first recordings with one of my early bands. We did there, and those guys, Mark and David and Craig, were really big influence on me. They taught me a lot about recording and exposed me to a lot of really great old music, and helped me see sort of to connect the dots between the different strands of music, going all the way back from early in the 20th century all the way up to the present day, and seeing those connections, and really, and then also how to approach my music in a way that was really fun and creative and interesting. So those guys were big influences, and I really enjoyed that. And it was really a neat time to be in Valdosta, and there were a lot of creative people here, and now with technology and the internet, it's easier for people from places that are off the beaten path to get discovered and get heard. And so there's a lot more opportunities and varieties for people to share their creative work, and so that's a lot of fun.